I'm Jeremy Manatic.
Hey, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I'm grateful to be clean and sober to clean today. Still working on that one. I remember in high school, my English teacher teaching you that when I get bad stage fright, she's like, one of the best ways to get over that is visualize people naked. But I got Joe in my direct sight, so I'm gonna opt out on that tonight. Yeah. So my story, man. So my clean date is 8/26/2012. My drugs of choice were heroin and meth, but I really would do anything that came in my path. My parents, see here, let's start when I was young. My dad dipped out before I was born. I've never met my father a day in my life. And that had a lot of issues growing up later on with direction and leadership and just not knowing which way to turn. My mom had remarried before I can, as early as I can remember, to this man, and there was 4 of us kids at the time. I was the third born, and there was a lot of crazy madness that went on in that house with abuse between my mom and me through my stepdad. He kind of looked at me like I was a weaker link. I've always been a big softie. If you know me, I'm a little bit sensitive and whatnot. And that's just kind of how it's always been. I've been the small guy. I've been the runt my whole life. And, in his household, that was like I wasn't what a man should be. And so I caught the stiff end of that punishment a lot by just not knowing how to get over my fear of the dark. And, there's a lot of times I'd wake up from nightmares and go sleep with my mom. And he'd beat me before I went back to bed and drag me to my room, and I went on for a lot of years where he beat my mom, and that just became normal. And the emotional detachment towards men really set in real early for me. I gravitated towards my mom, and it just was a lot more comforting because the man in my life wasn't somebody that I could trust or talk to. And later on in life, that really made it hard to develop healthy relationships with men. My mom divorced when I was 9. I was born here in Salem. We moved out to Sisters, a little dinky little town in Central Oregon, summer before 5th grade. And we moved into this single wide trailer home that was 2 bedrooms on an acre plot, and it was outside of city limits, so I played out in the woods nonstop. There was a neighborhood full of boys my age, and we all had forts at our houses. It was a fun time. My neighbor, he had go-karts, 4-wheelers, dirt bikes, and we run amok in the woods. And there was never any real, my mom just kind of let us run amok. I never had you got any homework tonight, son? It was never when I get off the bus, hey, let's have a meal for dinner. It was pretty normal for my mom to be in the back room doing her own thing and struggling herself, while us kids kind of fend for ourselves. My older brother kind of was the one who took leadership over me, and when I started getting in a lot of fights because I would get picked on so much for being small. I didn't break 5 feet or 100 pounds for my sophomore year in high school. I was a small little guy. And so in 5th grade, when we moved out there to Sisters, I was 4'5", 65 pounds soaking wet. And I got in a lot of fights with those redneck boys. And I'd come home and my brother would be like, "Toughen up, sissy." And I just didn't know how to fight. I didn't know anything. I was just... And so he taught. I remember my brother teaching me how to fight and rolling up these. We roll up like gloves on our hands with towels. He taught me how to defend myself. He's like, you sucker punch him, you do whatever you gotta do. Because a fight's not a fight outside, you know, you just do what you gotta do to survive. And that really sunk in and really put another like deep-seated moral, like I'm gonna fight how dirty I have to do to get what I need to feel some relief. My drug use, I remember my first time smoking pot. I was 9 years old and it was out on Sunnyside Road. And we stole my friend's dad's pot. And we went out to the briar bushes where we had this fort and we smoked pot. And we went down the street to this little church and like rolled down the hill like for hours. And that was fucking awesome. And I remember it being like, this is life. You know, like this is, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life smoking pot and rolling down hills. And then metaphorically, that kind of works. So that's one though. I don't remember the first time I drank. I just knew that in middle school, I used to go over to my friend's house, and his parents drank a lot too, similar to my home. We kind of had our own world, and there's no real parenting ever going on. And his dad had this HRD under the sink, and we'd go in there and we'd steal the HRD and then go back into his room and play Tekken Tag for hours and just get sick and throw up everywhere. And like, his parents never were like they never came into the back room, so it was just kind of, we did our own thing. And this is like, all my friends' houses were like this. Like, none of my normal friends that I hung out with from middle school all the way through high school had like solid parenting. None of us kids. I don't know if it's like something in the backwoods area, sisters, that is just like, they'll get tough and live through it. I don't know. It was crazy. Looking back on it, like, man, like, it was pretty close to anarchy at some of our houses. It was just outrageous. I struggled in school really bad with reading and grades and just because I never went home and did my homework. When I applied myself in school, I did good on tests. When I got into high school, I started doing crank, and I was doing it with my friend's mom. I was like 14, and I remember starting to do it to do homework. And so I could get home, because I didn't want to, like, as soon as my friends fell asleep, then I could do crank, and I could stay up all night and do my history homework. And then I wouldn't have to worry about, like, being made fun of by being held back, or, because if I would have gone to summer school, I wouldn't have completed high school. That was set in my head, like, if I get held back, I'm just gonna do my own thing. High school was crazy, partying nonstop. I thought I was a punk rocker and I had a mohawk, and just lived that careless life. Like, I'm gonna do what I want when I want. I'm gonna live my life to the fullest, and that included not just drugs, but extreme sports. All of us boys, like, we built like huge 6-pack ramps in our backyards and tabletop jumps, and we all skateboarded, we all snowboarded. We were all just doing life like as a teenager kind of should have, but then there was this whole like crazy drug-induced epidemics where we get like 20 people together and go do mushrooms out in the woods, and I can't believe none of us ever went to the hospital. None of us. It was just crazy that there was no major repercussions of our actions. I graduated in 2004 from Sisters High School by the skin of my teeth. I moved here to Salem in 2006. After getting in trouble, I committed my first burglary when I was in the 4th grade. I broke into the candy stand next to my house in Canby, Oregon, with 3 of my friends with my mom's gardening tools. And my mom ratted me out because they took a picture of the garden. We'd left the gardening tools at the candy stand. And I remember like not like narking myself, like having my stash of candy from that candy stand in our attic all summer long too. Like, fuck you, like, I'm gonna need my bubblicious. But so yeah, I was a criminal from the time I was young. I was stealing my mom's Doral cigarettes and like thinking I was sneaky by like taking out a pack and like shifting the carton to where it looked like there was still, like stuff a fourth grader shouldn't be fucking doing. So later on in life, these little things that were rooting themselves just became natural in my everyday life when it came to any type of relationship with a girl or friend. Like the littlest lie became normal. I needed to lie to feel adequate and comfortable within my own skin. When I moved to Salem, life was pretty good, and that's when I first met recovery in 2006. I started coming to these rooms. I was 20, and I didn't ever do shit. I got the weakest person that I thought would be a sponsor and never worked a step. And that pattern repeated itself over and over and over. And there's a few people in these rooms that can attest to that I would show up and I'd just sit in a meeting and I'd fill empty space, but I never did work on myself. I struggled with that. I didn't want to be uncomfortable. And that's what it takes to be in recovery. Is I have to be willing to become vulnerable and uncomfortable. More uncomfortable than I was in my addiction at times, because as soon as I get sober, I have all these feelings and thoughts and repercussions of these things that I've battled so long to fight against. My last use was I left an AA meeting in downtown Salem to go pick up heroin. I was in the middle of a meeting and I left to go, and I took all fucking day to get the bag too. So meetings never saved my fucking ass. I've seen a lot of people do the same process in and out, and the good job never saved my life. The girl never saved my life. The clothes on my back, the car that I drive, the house that I live in, the girl that's on my side has no clear reflection of my recovery. My recovery started, I would say honestly started a year ago, when I started a step study group with a group of men, and it changed my life drastically. I started that group. I had been out of prison. I went to prison. I went to prison for stealing a car. I stole my wife's car because I thought the best idea to do would be to not tell anybody about my drug use and just leave for the weekend and go to detox, like Bridgeway. And the motherfuckers won't let you in there if you're tweaking. They're like, well, have you been drinking, sir? No, I haven't been drinking. Do I need to? I am seeing meth monsters. I need help. I showed up at this meeting after I'd crashed, and John and, oh my goodness, I can't remember the other guy, pulled me up on the bench outside, and they put me in their house, and they fed me and let me sleep, and got me into an Oxford house. And at the time I was married. I had just had a brand new baby daughter. And I left all of that, man. I turned my back on everything. I eventually got served with paperwork to get an annulment with my wife, and I didn't sign them. I didn't do nothing. I defaulted and let her have sole custody of my daughter. I turned my back on everything. I was just talking to a guy just the other day about, he's like, man, if you can't get clean for your kids, then what can you get clean for? And in my head, I didn't want to pull him up, but in my head, the first thought was man, you have no real understanding of what an addict goes through. The crazy madness that I submit myself to. So I went to prison. I got out with a plan. In prison, I did an AIP program that helped change a lot of the behaviors, the cognitive behaviors and gave me light on a lot of the stuff. And the counselor that I had walked me through the steps. but it's different when you're in prison to walk through the steps. At least it was for me. When I got out, I had a plan. I had a plan that I was gonna get into school, and I was gonna get motivated, and I didn't give a fuck what anybody else thought or cared or how long it took them to accept me back in their lives. Because for so long, I needed that family or that friend to be like, hey, good job, I'm so happy for you. I needed the pat on the back. And for once, I just wanted to do it for myself. And that was a big changing moment for me. I got out of prison in 2013. I immediately got enrolled in school for barbering. I hit the ground running. I graduated from school. I got a career going for me today, and then I went stagnant. I got crazy. And even with clean time, I got fucking in some crazy, stupid behaviors, selling drugs and selling weed, and I was just lost, man. I didn't want to come back here because I was kind of over it, and I didn't want to be around the people, and I was just jaded. And I went out to this camp out. I had a bad breakup, and I moved into Oxford because it's the only place I knew what to do. Like, I was going crazy. I didn't want to use. I needed structure in my life, and I was 3.5 years clean when I moved back into Oxford because this is what I fucking needed. Like, I had every means to move into my own place, and I chose not to because I needed structure in my life. I needed men to guide me. I needed something different. And so I broke down, and shortly after that I went to the camp out, the Downey Creek camp out, and I'm sitting by the campfire, and Drew, he's like, come on, so sit over here, man. You're gonna be spending more time with me. I was like, all right. Like, that's what I needed. That's all I needed to give me the push. And then we started this men's group. We started this men's step study. And this is a simple spiritual program in Narcotics Anonymous. And the cold hard truth is that if you can't get over the spirituality barrier, I'll never get anything in my life. Nothing fruitful internally. Externally is exempt. The things that I get internally are far more superior than the kicks, the girl. And so learning how to start off the 12 steps in a spiritual basis and having a cornerstone for my recovery was imperative for me. We walked through the 12 steps. I think there started off with like 11 or 13 of us, and we ended with 5. And that was some of the most groundbreaking stuff that I'd ever been in my life. Like, I've never been in a relationship, not even with my wife, and had that much intimacy with somebody. And I shared it with a group of men. And today my life is a huge difference from just a year ago. And I like to consider myself a newcomer because really, like, there's a big difference between clean time and being in recovery. See, I could be clean for a number of years, but I haven't done anything to recover from the mess and the madness. And the only way to get that is through the 12 steps or Narcotics Anonymous. I've tried other ways. I've tried going to church, and it's never worked. Yeah, it's kept me clean throughout the years, but to get that reprieve and that groundbreaking from that victim role stance of the world is out to get me, the PO's out to get me, my girlfriend hates me and she don't trust me and all this stuff, and all of a sudden, like, things start changing. Like, the 4-step guides me through the same behaviors that I'm pissed off at this person or have a resentment on this person. I'm doing the same fucking shit over and over to other people. So it's just that man in the mirror effect of the world I'm disgusted with is the world within myself. And I'm grateful today to be able to take meetings. I don't take Narcotics Anonymous into prisons, but I go into the prisons with another 12-step program because it's something that I think is really important for me. It gives me self-worth. I know people that do setting up chairs or something, starting simple, and just learning to get self-worth is really important. And it's those little things where people start relying on me for things. They can, my integrity speaks for me when I'm not around. So when my name comes up in conversations, or if somebody's inquiring about me, how good of a man am I? What are they going to tell this person? Those are the things that are important to me. Because it wasn't always like that, but the people that have known me for a number of years, I was a guy that tramped around the Oxford houses. I didn't care for a long time. Today my life is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I owe it to Narcotics Anonymous and the men that showed me how to live. Now, they didn't fix me. They didn't come in here and fix me, and I can't expect my sponsor to fix my problems. But what I can look forward to is him showing me some guidance on how to work through some stuff, because more than likely he's gone through the same stuff. You've been through a divorce, a crazy mix-up, you owe back support, you don't know how to get out of financial insecurities. Like, fuck, I've been there. Come talk to me. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know your pain until you come and tell me. I want to help you, because it's not about me anymore. Because the only way I can stay here is to give it away. So, if you want what I have, and that's peace of mind and a spiritual foundation that guides me in my day-to-day process and keeps me out of misery, keeps me out of muck, and gives me the ability to pick a good woman in my life and not go tramping around. It gives me the ability to show up to fucking work every day and not call in sick because I'm just tired because I was out bowling too late. I don't call in to fucking work. I pay my bills on time. I don't buy shoes that are gonna break me from, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pay my child support because I pay some Jordans. Like, that shit doesn't happen anymore. But it used to. I still fucking think that shit. Like, I can get away with it. Just push it a little bit. That thought process is still there. When I work out and I see my veins and I still fucking see that shit and I still get that crazy thought of like, man, a shot would be good right now. It goes away really fast with time, over time, and I don't obsess over that shit anymore. And that's the beauty of this program. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for having me, Chef. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jane. I'm an addict. Hey. What he said. Yeah, okay. Really, that's cool. I love the passion. I love the passion. You know, I like seeing desperation in people's eyes because they're probably going to stick a little longer than someone that's just kind of sliding through. And I like the passion. The passion will get you through lots of stuff. It gets me through. The commitments. I'm going to show up today. I don't want to show up today. I'm going to sit on the couch today and watch the reruns of Criminal Minds. There might have been one line I missed the last 10 times I watched it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or it's raining out. I'm tired. I don't want to go. But I said I'd show up. Okay, God, get me up. Get me there. And I'm never sorry when I show up. And I'm usually grateful when I leave. One of the things that I've learned is if I keep gratitude going, I'm okay. It's when I start deserving and I owe, or you owe me, that's even worse. Or I got it. That's when I get in trouble, I think. Anyway, I'm Jane, I'm an addict. My clean date is December 22nd, 1979. And yes, I know I'm older than I've been clean longer than most of you are. Yeah. I would appreciate it if you didn't come up and share that information with me later. Because it's young, Oldtimer. Yeah. One of the reasons I stay around is because I want you to know this works. This works. Not just the meetings, not just a sponsor, not just not using, not doing the steps, doing the steps. This stuff works over a period of time. And at any given time, I'm doing one or two of those things. And if on a really, really good day, I'm doing all of them. But I'd be lying to you if I told you I was full of passion and joy and God-loving and peace and serenity every day for 37 years. It's a lie. You know, I've had my ups and my downs, and I was just telling somebody in there, right now everybody's acting right. I'm feeling really good. I'm full of peace and serenity. And I'm riding it for everything it's got because I know it'll change. You know, I'm not exempt. Just because I'm in recovery does not mean I'm exempt from life or from tough times. You know. Congratulations to the people that came home today. That's great. I'm glad that you're here. And I hope that you stay. It's much easier if you stay. But we'll still be here if you come back. Hopefully. At least some of us will be, huh? Okay. Obviously, from the length of time, I'm not going to tell my whole story. I can't do that in 20 minutes. And quite frankly, I'm just a run-of-the-mill drug addict. I got no great, wonderful stories or deep scars. Because you know what? Whether my dad played around with me late at night or not is not why I'm a drug addict. Whether my mom was a food addict or relied on me constantly for her well-being is not why I'm an addict. My dad's addiction to pornography is not why I'm an addict. Going through men like water is not why I'm an addict. Having 3 children and dragging them all over states and doing criminal activity and other perversions, both immoral and amoral, is not why I'm a drug addict. No. What for me is I put that drug in me and I change from the inside out. Yeah, that's why I'm an addict. And it doesn't matter if I drink a 5th of vodka or I put it in my veins. It doesn't matter how much, how long, or how bad. I'm a drug addict. And I'm always going to be. And I thank God for the people who were around here when I got here that drilled that into me, that I got to do the first step and I got to do it total. It's got to be total. Now, I'd like to tell you I got it right off the bat and I believed it solidly, but that's not really true. I got the first half. The first half. I surrendered that I could no longer put chemicals in my body and expect to not get the same consequences. I loved putting the drug in my body every damn time. I don't like the consequences that followed, and there was my battle. I was trying to do and not get. Do and not get. And my before story is simply that I built my life up and then I slammed it down. I built it up and I slammed it down. I built it up. Now, my idea of a successful woman, because remember, I'm from the 70s, the successful woman had the picket fence and 2.5 kids, car in the driveway, husband that loved and adored and brought flowers home every day, chocolates on Sundays, the apron, and you don't even remember Father's Knows Best. But anyway, that's how I was raised. That was a successful woman, and I was in trouble almost from the get-go because I wanted to be in charge. And on Father's Knows Best, the woman isn't in charge. She comes fully dressed and beautiful with an apron on every day he comes home. Every day. Who does every day on anything, right? And has the meal cooked and the kids cleaned and put to bed. Every day. So I was in trouble from the get-go. So I'd go find him, and I'd build up my life, and we'd have everything in place. And then I got antsy. You know that feeling, just kind of a little edgy and antsy, looking for a little bit of something to make excitement, you know. So I'd smash it all down. I did damage to a whole lot of people along the way. And then I'd go out to find my excitement, and I found it. And that would wear me out and tear me down. And when I got really, really tired, I'd say, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I'd go build up a new life. Yeah. And so at the end of the road, I started at 12 and I ended at 28. And I was pretty much the youngest person in the room when I walked in. And they would make little comments like, you know, I spilled more than you ever drank, kind of stuff, you know. And I'd like to tell you I came in because I was so very, very tired I couldn't stand it. My very, very tired was May of 1979 when I went to a hotel room to meet up with some gals who were coming down the next day. And I thought I'd get there a little early so that I could relax, you know. and get the alcohol out of my system, because by then I was in the late stages of alcohol. And so I don't know if you know this or not, but when you're in late stages of alcohol, you stink when you sweat. And the whole room reeks. And I didn't want them to know that I was at that stage. So I was going to clean it all out with a lot of hot showers and stuff and a lot of water, clean it all out. And I did well all day long. All day. So at night, when I was getting ready to go to bed, there was a cute little guy down there doing the night shift, you know. He was really cute, and I'd done all day. Did I tell you that? All day. Taking a shower, drank some water, I was ready for bed. I didn't always look this way. And he came down with a bottle of gin and a guitar. And I looked at that bottle of gin and I knew I was going to drink it. I didn't want to drink it. I had every reason not to drink it. I prayed for the first time in a long time that I wouldn't drink it. And yet I knew I was going to drink it. I surrendered to the fact that I had no control over drugs entering my body. Now I used until December. So the awareness of who I am and what I am, and that I have no power over it, did not stop me. It just didn't. I accepted I was, and I was willing to go with those consequences. I would like to tell you that there was some major thing that happened in December, because it was the 22nd, so I didn't quite make it to Christmas. I don't know why, other than I just couldn't do another day. Just couldn't make another day. And I came in Salem, Oregon. The SOS Club was here. Newcomer Club did not. And this was an old two-story house. And there was no NA available here. There was a small group started up in Portland with a real hard-on for AA, so that didn't go well for me. So I went to AA, and I stayed in AA until, did a lot of traveling, because I'm a traveling kind of a gal, and I've done about 10 or 12 different states. And at this particular time, when I was down there, I met up with a guy, and I said, I love you, you love me, let's move in together. Because second dates are like, you either move in together or you don't, right? So, it's on or it's not. So anyway, that's how I did it. So we that was December, and I didn't get married till January, so it was a long courtship. Anyway, that was my last one. I only married 3 times. So anyway, and him and I went off in the sunset to Idaho, which is where he was from. He was just coming. This is the level of my attractiveness at that particular moment. He was just coming out of a 90-day rehab from a psych ward down in. He was clear across the room, and I found him. So we moved in together, and moved to Idaho, and then down to Utah and Northern California, and then back up to, kind of made the route, So, because that was my MO. If it's not good here, it'll be good somewhere, right? Yeah, if he's not good for me, it'll be good somewhere. And anyway, I kept the 3 kids, and here's the thing, is I dragged those 3 kids with all of that. All of that. All of that. Because I wanted kids? Nah. Because I wanted to be loved. And kids are supposed to love you forever, no matter what. Or I wanted to get a man or keep a man. It was never because I wanted to be a parent. And I drug those kids everywhere. And 37 years later, I can still tell you there are moments when I look at them and I am so full of shame and regret and guilt for what I did to those kids. Now they're in their 40s now and got kids of their own, so they pretty well forgive me most of the time. But that doesn't stop this in here. I've done a lot of steps on it, and I've done a lot of God on it. So most of the time I do okay. But there's those moments when I think, especially when my daughters are kind of doing the same thing I did. And I think, God, look at my scars. And stop. They can't see any more than I could at that time. So I didn't get God right away. Didn't like God. Wasn't interested in God. Because the second part of the step, for one, I was still in charge of everything except where drugs were concerned. So I was in charge of the man, I was in charge of the finances, I was in charge of the house, I was in charge of the kids, I was in charge of all that stuff. So consequently, that didn't get better until about the 10th year. But I kept going to the meetings. I got a sponsor because they said to, but I didn't use them very much. But I used the group as my higher power. I figured they had more sense than I did. And they were a lot older kind of people. And So I figured they must know, right? Yeah. So anyway, remember I was 28 and they were 50. So I kind of brought all my behavior in to the fellowship that I had out there, except I wasn't using. And so my head was going faster than normal. You know, and they love me. And I try really hard when I see people misbehaving and people doing acts today in the fellowship. I try to remember people love me no matter how. I had some really honest mentors that would confront me from time to time and say, you know, Jane, it might be good if you just sat in a meeting for a while without wearing clothing that are dipped down to here or up to your ass or really tight, or is that how you come to a meeting? Well, yeah. You know, it would be really nice, Jane, if you just sat all the way through a meeting instead of getting up 12 or 14 times so guys can look you over. You know, Jane, it'd be really nice if you waited till break time to go out and have a cigarette. You know, they didn't have cell phones back then, but yeah. Maybe, Jane, it'd be nice if you shared a little bit about what you're learning in recovery instead of what it used to be like. We all know what it's like. What's you doing about it today? And slowly but surely, I learned some manners of groups and meetings. Slowly but surely, I started listening to what people were saying, and I saw God in them. Not the God I thought I had, but a different God. And I don't know about you, but I lived on a lot of ideas and beliefs that weren't true. I didn't know they weren't true, but somebody would say something and it's like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So, like, you can have any God you want. That you can start your day over anytime you want. You can stop in the middle of your behavior and change it. You can stop in the middle of a rant and go to the bathroom and sit there and just chant Easy Does It or One Day at a Time or something. That it's not working the steps that's going to fix you or make you well. And it's not just going to meetings that's going to. My idea is if I go to meetings and I talk to God and I do the working of the steps, I get to God and God changes me. You know, I'm on a different timetable than God, and I have a tendency to want it right now. You know? And it really is experiencing the steps that make the difference. You know, I write the steps and I do the praying about the steps, but it's the life experiences where I apply the steps. And if I'm not applying the steps, then they're just words on a paper. They're just something I learn how to do. I love the flat book. I would never give it to a newcomer to do personally. You know, we got a beautiful basic text that runs you right through those steps and writes through. I learned very quickly in early recovery to do what I call a down and a dirty. And that's where we start at 9 o'clock in the morning with step 1, and we finish usually around 6 o'clock in the afternoon on step 8. Get her done. Not on your whole life, just on whatever situation's killing you, because those steps are my tools for recovery. They're not something you do once a month or once a year or whatever. What I need to do is I need to apply them to every situation I come to. And the way I know that is by listening. So anyway, enough. I don't have enough time to talk about all the journeys that I've had, except just a few. One of them that I do want to share with you, and I'm going to get through it by God, is there was a couple of people on my resentment list, every resentment list, and one of them was my dad. I hated my dad for all the reasons little girls hate dads, and I used that guilt and that shame to get money out of him and to get moved across country and called in the middle of the night to get me out of scrapes. And I hated him. And I put him on my resentment list, and he was on my resentment list, and he was on my resentment list because I didn't want to see my side of it. It took a long time for me to see my side of it straight. It didn't excuse his behavior, but I have a side too. And finally a sponsor got through to me, and I saw my side. And I tried changing my behavior, tried being a good daughter instead of trying to make him a good father. That was a change in attitude because I didn't like him. And it says that that going to an enemy is better than going to a friend. It helps us more. And that's my testify, is that that's truth for me. I hated my dad. And but what I decided is, after my mom died, is that I would take him to breakfast once a month. Once a month. He eats like a pig, right? Because he's got no teeth, no manners. So it's a 20 minutes once a month. And I didn't do it willingly or nicely. You'd think I would, right? But it was an order. Okay. So I went once a month, and then pretty soon it's once a week, because he's getting older. He's up in his 80s and getting older. And then 4 years ago, I felt like it was time to retire. I was going to retire 3 years early. I wasn't quite sure why, but I've learned to trust my God, and I knew that it was time to retire. I didn't know why. So I retired in September, and in October, my dad was declared blind. So now I'm taking him to breakfast every day. I'm starting to drive him to doctor's appointments. And then over the next 3 years, I'm doing his laundry, I'm fixing him meals, I'm doing his prescriptions, I'm taking him to the doctor to make sure everything was okay, and And pretty soon he's all in my life. My life is now mostly my dad. He's totally blind and got Parkinson's disease, so he doesn't walk really good. And one day it dawned on me that I had some compassion for my dad. Who'd ever believe that? I had some compassion for my dad. And then it dawned on me, my dad hadn't been able to look at pornography for a long time. Now, if I take the judgment off of pornography and just put it to drug, my dad had to do clean suddenly and without any help. He had to withdraw by himself, and because of the shame, he couldn't talk to anybody about it. They do not have pornography on talking books. I know, I looked. But he had a very small group of books that he wanted, and I would make sure he got his little talking books every day. And then we took him to the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. And I found myself crying when he was diagnosed with cancer. Who'd have believed that shit? Because I hated this man, right? But what I noticed is God changed my heart because I was willing to be a good daughter instead of him being a good father. God changed my heart. Not because I'm a especially good person or because I did the 12 steps on him, because I've done 12 steps 100 times on him, but because God changed my heart. And he did it in a sneaky son of a bitchin' way. He didn't just go lump, he just eased me in. He just eased me in. And when my dad passed in a year ago last Saturday, he was loved. He was surrounded by people who loved him, including me. Who'd have believed that crap? I wouldn't have believed it 30 years ago. You know? One more story and then I'll shut up, right? We're getting close.
Yeah, we're fine.
All right, so one more thing is that I want to share. Experiencing the steps in my life brings me to God. God does the fixing. God does the shifting, but I have to show up. If I sit at home waiting for self-esteem, I'm never going to get it. I go do self-esteemable acts and I get self-esteem. If I want self-worth, I do worthy acts. Yes, Greg, that is correct. So, how do I do that? I have to have a purpose in life. And one of the purposes that I have is through service work. Not because I always want to go do it. Hell no. But because when I do it, I feel good about me. You know, I pass the message on. I give a hope to somebody for that minute. Sometimes when we go out to Polk County, there's just 2 girls and then 1 girl shows up from the jail. But we still show up. We still show up. When we go up to the prison, those girls are on fire for recovery. They love it. So anyway, the other thing that I want to share with you is a story that means a lot to me. Most of you that have been around for a while have heard it. It's still true for me today. And that is, in a nutshell, my story of recovery, which is I'm walking down the road to happy destiny with my sponsor, Rocket. That's the other thing. Good sponsor, bad sponsor. What the hell's that shit? Huh? You know, I get out of this what I put into it, regardless. Their idea, they're just supposed to guide us to here. They're not there to fix us. Yeah, anyway, sorry, opinion. So we're walking down the road, happy destiny, and we come to a fork in the road. And I look at my sponsor and I say, which way do we go? She says, we go to the right. And I start looking to the right because a good sponsor does direction, right? Or supposed to do direction. But on the left, out of the corner of my eye, I see happiness. Now he happens to be two-legged, you know. Black jacket, leaning against the wall like he owns the world, you know. No job, hates his mother. Yeah, that's my okay. I say, no, I think we go left. I think we go left. I'm sure we go left. That's happiness over there. No, we're going to go right. No, I want to go left. Okay, well, there's a 50,000-pound gorilla down there. Really? Yeah, it's a 50,000-pound gorilla down there. You go right, I go left to see you down the road. She goes off, I go down there, and there's a gorilla down there, and he beats the holy crap out of me. Knocks me down, kicks me out onto the road. There's my sponsor with only the sponsor's look. You know that little smile that they give, and they didn't want to say, I told you so, but, you know. So, but she picks me up, brushes me off, slaps a Band-Aid on, and says, let's go. So we start trudging down the road to happy destiny. We get to the next fork in the road. I say, which way do we go this time? We're going to go to the left this time. Are you sure? Okay, left. We're going to go left. Wow, the corner of my eye. Should never look. You should just do what they say. Focus. Out of the corner of my eye. Happiness. New job. Money. Prestige. Nope, my happiness is over there. Nope, there's a big gorilla down there. You don't want to go there. Off I go. Happiness. Gorilla. Beats me up. Knocks me down the road. Kicks me a few times. There's my sponsor with a little Band-Aid kit, Band-Aiding me up, and I say, I ain't ever doing that again. Where you say to go, I'm going to go. I'm going to follow you. Focus on where you're going, I'm going to go there. I'm never doing that again. So down the road we go, get to another fork in the road, same thing happens. I go off for the quick happiness, and she tells me go this way. And we do this a few times. And one time, just one of those times when you're really tired and you're actually listening to what she's saying, I say, why do I do that? Why can't I look at your scars and know that you know what you're talking about, that there's going to be a gorilla down there? And she said, well, honey, the reason is someday somebody's going to take your hand and ask you to be the sponsor, and you and her are going to start down that road. And you're going to get a fork in the road, and she's going to ask you which way to go, and you're going to tell her, and she's going to see happiness, and you're going to tell her about the gorilla, and she's not going to believe you, and she's going to go down there, and the gorilla, it better be a gorilla. Better be a gorilla. It better not be a chimpanzee. You better have fought that gorilla, got on the other side of that gorilla, and gone forward. Or she's never going to believe anything you say ever again. That's the experience, strength, and hope of Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you.